I've been, as I was introduced, I'm a math teacher here and a soccer coach, and I've been a part of Snowball for many years in the past, but I'm in grad school, and so I had class all day long, but I'm just so grateful to all of you guys for letting me still be a part of this really special day. So, big thanks especially to Mr. Tosh and Mrs. Bonowski for encouraging me to be here, because they asked me last year too, and they finally got me to show up this year. So. But I'm here today to talk to you guys about life. As you know, life is all about ups and downs, highs and lows, peaks and valleys. I'm going to share with you some of my highs and lows. But let's first do something fun. Think of a time when life was good. And by life was good, I mean things are good with your friends, things are good at home, school's going well, whatever's going on with extracurricular activities, you're having fun. Sure, there's the occasional stressors, but overall life is good. For some of you, you're thinking of right now, and that's awesome. But for others of you, you're thinking of a time that's not right now. Maybe right now you're in a bit of a valley. You have something occupying your mind, your thoughts, your sleep, your emotions. There's just something going on. You've all been there. You can all relate to that feeling. I'm here to try and help you focus on the good and less on the bad. I'm going to share with you some of my valleys and how I got out of them. Because I'll repeat it again, life is all about ups and downs, both of them. It's a continual roller coaster, sometimes down, sometimes up, always changing. And if you're down right now, know that it's not going to last forever. Look for the ups that are coming your way, because they are. They're coming. Some of the valleys I've experienced in my life might surprise you. I feel like the students that are placed in my classroom, on the soccer team, in this room tonight, are placed here for a reason. To hear me tell my story. So you can learn from me and my struggles. Perhaps I can be someone that gets you. Potentially be someone you can come and talk to if you ever need. I'm sharing my story with you so that you know that you're not alone in your valleys. I'm a big believer in the very cliche saying that everything happens for a reason, which I'll explain more in a little bit. But the valley I'd like to tell you about today is my car accident. When I was about your age, it was the summer between my junior and my senior year in high school. I was in a serious car accident. Some would consider me very fortunate to be alive. But this car accident changed my life. As emotionally traumatizing as it was, it changed my life. And I hope it can help you change your outlook on some of the tough times that you go through too. As lots of you know, I love soccer, and I was pretty good at it when I was younger. I was 17, and the club team of 18-year-olds asked me to go to Colorado with them to play in a tournament because they needed an extra player. So me, I'm like, hell yeah, I'll go. Trip to Colorado, are you kidding? I was pumped. Life was good. This was definitely a peak in my life. Soccer was my entire life. The trip to Colorado sounded amazing. I'd never been before, and even though it wasn't my team, I had several friends on the team, and I knew it was going to be a blast. Life was good. And this was the best trip ever. We did nothing but laugh and score goals. We won all of our games. I learned how to play euchre. We were listening to awesome rap music in the van on the way to the games. I remember it like it was yesterday. It was awesome. Lifelong friendships were being built and even longer lasting memories. But let me reemphasize one crucial part of the story, the van. You know, those 15-passenger vans. That's what we rode into everything. All the games, all the restaurants, everywhere we went. There were 17 of us crammed into a 15-passenger van. We had just won the semifinal game, and the championship game was the following day. We decided to go celebrate and go whitewater rafting. Side note, I was terrified to go whitewater rafting. I didn't want to be cold. I get seasick. I'm such a wuss. I didn't want to get hurt. I had never been nor seen anyone whitewater raft before. I just had a bad feeling. But at the same time, I'm like, whatever, where's my swimming suit? So we all piled into the van, swimsuits on, cooler packed full of Gatorade, jamming out to Welcome to Atlanta by Jermaine Dupri. Merged onto the highway, 70-plus miles an hour. And then it happened. There was an Isuzu SUV that was merging into the same lane as us. We were in the far right lane, they were in the far left lane. We decided at the same time to merge into the same spot. The SUV swerved to miss us, but swerved too hard. Almost hit the median in the middle of the road, so she swerved again, lost control, and hit us. We were going 70 miles an hour, and when any kind of an accident happens at 70 miles an hour, we kind of clung together and we started to roll. We flipped 4.5 times, ran over a road sign, and we ended maybe 30 yards off the side of a highway in a ditch upside down. remember the feeling of tubing. If you've ever been tubing before, you know that feeling when the boat's turning and you're about to go over the wake and you're holding on for dear life. It was just like that. The next thing I knew, we had stopped rolling. Like I said, the van was upside down, wheels in the air. I quickly checked myself, see if anything was hurt. My legs were tangled in something up in the air. Since the van was upside down, I don't know if they were stuck underneath one of the seats or if they were wrapped around a seatbelt or something, but I frantically tried to get them loose. And once I did, my legs literally just collapsed onto my chest. I knew I was hurt. At that time, some of my teammates started breaking windows and climbing out to free themselves. And one amazing part of this story is that maybe 10 to 12 of us were fine. We're able to walk away from the accident with just bumps and bruises. But then the panic started to come. I looked around the van, and there were still girls that were trapped with me, but they weren't moving. I was the only one trapped that was conscious. I honestly didn't know if they were dead or alive. There was blood all over my arm that wasn't mine. I just really started to freak out. Let me tell you something amazing. Amidst my panic attack, I noticed someone's cell phone literally laying right next to my head. It wasn't mine. I grabbed it. The only number I could think of to call was my dad, and he answered. I told him we were in an accident, it was really bad, and I was hurt. And I started to cry, panic, lose control. Thank God, he was so calm. He calmed me down, told me everything was going to be okay. He stayed on the phone with me the entire time. I could hear the paramedics asking me questions and shouting orders. Just to have him there with me made me feel like he was actually there and that everything was going to be okay. The paramedics did ask me a lot of questions. I knew I didn't have a head injury. I didn't hit my head. I knew where I was conscious. I could answer all their questions. I just couldn't move. I told the paramedics I knew there were girls in the van who needed their help more than I did, and to get them out before me. So they did. They literally dragged my teammates out of the van on stretchers over my own body one at a time, without me knowing if they were ever going to be okay. It's like a movie. One of my coaches had to take his shirt off and tie it around someone's arm to stop the bleeding. Another one of my coaches was slapping Crystal in the face, trying to keep her awake. She had hit her head. She was fading in and out. He was slapping her, saying, "Crystal, you are a fighter. You fight, Crystal. Look at me, Crystal. Stay with me, Crystal." Finally, it was my turn. I was the last one out. My right leg was messed up, pointing the wrong direction. I was literally unable to move even a finger without the most intense knife-like pains I've ever experienced shooting up and down my leg. What happened is I had hit the seat in front of me with my knee, forced my femur bone out the back of my hip socket, so dislocated my hip. That was my main injury. Apparently the impact like that usually actually breaks the femur bone, and I was told I was very lucky that I just had a dislocation. So some of my teammates obviously suffered far worse injuries. When we ran over the road sign, it was actually the roof of the van that came down and kind of hit the road sign and then knocked it over and kept rolling. And that made a really big dent in the roof of the van, which came down on everyone that was sitting in the third row. There were 4 girls sitting in that third row. Susan broke her neck and spent 6 months in a halo. Yes, the thing that they actually screw into your head so you can't move. Molly ended up in a body cast from the neck down to the waist and couldn't use her arms for 4 months. Her mom literally had to feed her and bathe her. Crystal, the one that was fading in and out, they placed into a medically induced coma for 2 days while they tried to get the bleeding in her brain to stop. And Sarah somehow suffered a massive concussion and severed her finger. Those 4 girls had to stay in the hospital for several weeks in Colorado, while the rest of us only overnight or not at all. Craziest part about this story, maybe you're wondering what the parents were doing that were at the tournament when we were in the accident. They were having lunch at a restaurant overlooking the highway, and they noticed all of a sudden ambulance after ambulance, fire truck after fire truck just blazing down the highway. There were so many of them that it brought to their attention. And one of the parents actually suggested that they join hands and say a prayer together for whoever those vehicles are going for. Then one at a time their phones started to ring and they realized they were praying for us. Best part about this story, everyone survived, everyone recovered, everyone played soccer again. Just as one amazing example, Susan, the one that was in the halo, she had to take a year off. She was going to college in that fall, so she had to take an entire year off to heal. But she went to Notre Dame, joined the soccer team there, and they went to the Final Four that year. She played in that game, which is amazing. So as you can imagine, for a long time after the accident, I was not myself. I was depressed. I had trouble sleeping. I was really upset. I went through this whole woe is me phase. Why do bad things have to happen to good people? What did I do to deserve this? Why did this have to happen to me? This was over the summer when the accident happened, and going back to school was also really difficult for me because it was my senior year, and all of my visible wounds had healed at that time. I wasn't on crutches anymore. The gash across my face had healed. And a lot of people had forgotten about the car accident even though we made national headlines. I was actually mad at my friends and my teachers for not mentioning the accident to me or asking me how I was doing. But at the same time, if anyone did bring it up, I was pissed because I didn't want to talk about it. I was in this really dark place and I just couldn't get myself out of it. I didn't know what to do, and a lot of you know what this feels like. So I remember once Molly was released from the hospital and finally back in Indianapolis. She's one of the ones that had to stay in Colorado for 2 weeks to heal. My mom and I went to her house to visit her. And I was looking for someone to relate to me, to be able to commiserate with me, someone that I could bitch and complain to that would actually understand what I was going through. I was also hoping, selfishly, that she'd be able to put the extent of my injuries into perspective. I was on crutches. She couldn't move anything from the waist up. But she was, like, happy. She was awesome, actually. Her mom even told us that when Molly was released from the hospital, they took her back to the scene of the accident before they went to the airport to come home. And I remember thinking, why the hell would you do that to her? Why would you take her back to that place? It's all I can do not to think about the accident, relive it every single day, dream about it at night. I can't imagine having to go back there. Why would you do that? But this is my aha moment. Her mom must have seen that look on my face, or maybe I even said some of that stuff out loud. I don't remember. But she looked at me and she went, Angie, we wanted Molly to see the place where her life was saved. And that was it. That was all I needed. I thought to myself, where her life was saved. Wait a second. I was there. I was in that accident. My life was saved there. It wasn't just hers. I was there. I survived it too. For those of you that understand, this is the day I consider the day of my spiritual salvation as well. But I was thinking about it all wrong, you guys. I was feeling sorry for myself. But think about that. I was feeling sorry for myself that I didn't die. Feeling sorry for myself that I survived and that I lived. For some reason, we tend to get down on ourselves, and I was letting this accident overshadow all the good that was happening and was going to happen in my life. It was going to be my freaking senior year. I was allowing the car accident to prevent me from enjoying the life that happened after the accident. I was allowing the car accident to cause me to just float through my senior year trapped in this funk. I was literally dragging this car accident around with me everywhere I went, carrying that burden, instead of realizing what I had overcome and what I had survived, and freaking celebrating. As a teacher, I come across a lot of students who just seem off. Low, blue, down. Some take it to their extreme. They're disrespectful. They don't care about their schoolwork. They seem to not have any goals or dreams in mind. They're rude to their parents and their teachers. They've given up trying on pretty much everything. I can see the looks on their faces. Mrs. Johnson, you just don't get it. Or Mrs. Johnson, leave me alone. There's no way you understand what I'm dealing with. My response? Try me. I've been there. Wanted to give up, I've been blue, I've felt sorry for myself so many times. But I desperately want them to know that I've been there. Some of the other trials that I've gone through that a lot of you can relate to. My parents' divorce, one of the most difficult things I've ever been through for so many different reasons. My best friend's trip to drug and alcohol rehab while we were in high school, she recently celebrated 12 years of sobriety. The sexual abuse I went through as a child. And most recently, leaving my friends, my family, and my job in Indiana, when my husband's job moved us here to Chicago, where I knew not one single person. And when I think back to that, how upset and how sad I was to leave Indiana and have to come here to Big Bad Frem. You know the song, Look at Me Now. I hear that all the time when I think about just that one specific trial. I had no idea what was waiting for me here. That's the point. You guys will all go through so much in your lifetime. It's inevitable there will be things that happen that are hard, but there will also be things that will happen that will be good. When I think about how scared and upset I was to live in Indiana and move here, I think of that song every time. I want to share with you one quick story about how sometimes bad things happen for a good reason, to really bring my point home. I was a Division I soccer player at Butler, and while I was there I tore both my ACLs. No, not at the same time. why do athletes get injured? We definitely don't deserve injuries. And sometimes it seems like the hardest working and most dedicated are the ones that suffer the worst injury. Long story short, for my second ACL as a senior in college, right before my senior season started. Guys, this was devastating. Talk about being in a low place and just feeling like the world was over. I was left with two choices, because those of you that know, when you tear your ACL, it's going to be at least 8 months, most likely a year, before you play soccer again. The choice number one, that was the last game of my soccer career ever. The game I tore my ACL in. That was it, career over, college over, I end on that note. Or choice number two, delay my graduation, stick around for a victory lap, aka another senior year, rehabilitation for my knee, don't start interviewing for jobs, basically screw the entire plan I had for my life that was lined up and working out perfectly. Some of you are panicking right now imagining being in my shoes because you're planners and your life has to stick to this massive plan you have and you can't imagine what would happen if something ever got in the way of it. This was me. It was real world time for me. College was ending. But I was ready to move on to bigger and better things. My whole life was before my eyes and I was just going to scrap the whole thing and start over. I did. I postponed my graduation. I did not go to the job fairs and the interviews that I had set up. I became a super senior. I had such a strong feeling inside me that I did not want that to be my last soccer game of my life, ever. I was not going to be done that way. So I rearranged my entire life. I rolled with it. Here's a list of positives that I've experienced that happened just because of that ACL tear. Number one, I got a Spanish minor. I had to take a bunch of classes because I was going to graduate, and then I changed my mind, so I had to sign up for all these classes, and I took all Spanish classes over the summer and during the entire semester. I took like 12 Spanish classes all at once. Now I have a Spanish minor. Number two, I was a 3-year captain of my soccer team. How many people can say they were a captain of their college sports team for 3 years? The obvious joke here is probably only super seniors. Number three, here's the best part. You know how everyone in my class started interviewing for jobs, and I was supposed to interview with them, but I didn't. At that time, I had a dream job in mind. I wanted to go back to my high school in Indiana and teach for my principal with my former teachers. But when all my friends were interviewing, that school was not hiring. They did not have any teaching positions open. And you can be the best candidate in the entire world, but if you don't have any teaching positions, you don't get interviewed and you definitely don't get hired. But since I postponed my graduation, I ended up taking only one more semester of school so I could play soccer. So I graduated in December, and I was one of those randoms trying to get a teaching job in the middle of the school year. And what are the chances that in the middle of the school year, in January, my former principal at my high school, with my former teachers, that principal called me on the phone and told me he had not one but 2 teachers hiring in the middle of the freaking year. And he wanted me to fill one of those spots. That would not have happened, you guys, had I not torn my ACL. It would not happen. And that is why not everything bad that happens ends up being bad. Had I never torn my ACL, I would have graduated on time and not gotten that opportunity. But I did tear my ACL, and I thought my life was over. And then I ended up with my dream job at the time. Dream job at the time. And here's what I've learned time and time again. You might not know for a really long time why you have to go through some of the crap that you have to go through. But eventually, you'll figure it out. You just have to trust and believe that there might actually be a better plan for you that you're not aware of yet. So look around, you guys. What you're learning today is that everyone is dealing with or has dealt with a battle of some sort. We all have them. So what's the point? The point is a lot of the stuff I've been through, you guys are going through or will go through. And a lot of people let this kind of stuff ruin their lives. But I refuse to let this bad stuff have that much of an impact. I still want to be a teacher. I still want to have a husband and a family and hang out with my friends and make people proud of me and accomplish my goals. And I hope you can feel some of that power too, because we all go through some tough stuff. But I hate it when people use their trials as an excuse for floating through life, like I was my senior year. It doesn't make it any easier. It doesn't make any of it okay, but what is okay is that we can come out on the other side better. Life is made up of peaks and valleys. It is a roller coaster, and unfortunately there's more to come. But there's also answers in the future. There are reasons, there are plans, there are highs and excitements and thrills still yet to come. There's success. One of my favorite Dave Matthews songs It says, from the dark side, we can see the glow of something bright. So don't be stuck in the dark. Move towards the light.